to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much. So I remind everyone that this meeting is being telecast and recorded on Channel 14, and remind any member of the public who wishes to make an audio or video recording of the open session of the meeting to notify me as chair, and I will inform the public of the recording as required by the open meeting law. No, does anyone have any public comment, or can I skip? All right, I'm not going to do the long thing about the public comment since we don't have anyone visiting with us tonight, but we do have our student advisory report. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Katrina Wilson. I'm a freshman at Falmouth High School. I'm involved in the student government along with the band and several school clubs, and this is my first time being here. So.
Thanks for joining us. Is there anything going on at the high school that you'd like to highlight for us?
There seems to be a lot of, I guess, confusion about the clearness of tardiness, and some people are getting, like, personally, I don't find it fair that 4 tardies is eligible for a detention, and I know people who are perfectly great students and stuff like that, and I'm not sure if that goes on their record or not, but I think there should be an excused absence for like icy roads, and you should take the weather into account for sure.
So tardy to school?
Yes.
Any other things going on?
Not that I can think of.
Any questions for Katrina tonight? Thanks for joining us. First up on the agenda is the exchange trip to France for Falmouth High School students. Ms. Schmidt, want to come and tell us about it?
Okay. There we go. So as you've seen, I'm sure in the proposal, I would like to continue the exchange that we established last year. It's sort of an every other year kind of thing because it's so labor intensive, and you need a year to recover and think, why am I doing this? Okay, now I know why. And when you have an awesome first period class with a classroom representative in it, and students who are almost never tardy. I can say that with my group. They're a nice small group. They're a good way to start the morning. You realize that it's definitely something that is so worthwhile. So I'm proposing to do it for the 2018-2019 school year. The French students would come in October, again, as they have last school year. They would be with us approximately 10 days. They have not given me their dates of when they would be here yet, but I do know that they said this last exchange they started in New York, and they were exhausted doing New York at the start, so they might start with us and then do New York at the end. Would be just a slight difference. And my proposal is to go in April based on when our vacation and their vacation are. The French have 2 weeks of vacation for April, so if we went on our vacation and the week after, we wouldn't have school at all. So my proposal is again to go the week before the vacation and stay through the vacation week, returning. I think the dates I proposed were April 6th to the 19th. And so, I would plan to follow all the same protocols that I did before, using the same forms. If there are any modifications that the school committee or the superintendent request, we would certainly do that. But I'd like to get going on recruiting to have students. The other part of the request that I made was I would love to take another teacher with me. My hope is that we'll have enough enthusiasm from our students now, having seen the process, that I won't have to go with another district as well. And I would love to take another teacher so that they learn the ropes. I can see myself doing a few more exchanges, but it would be great to have someone that would want to continue, once I'm no longer a part of the equation. So.
I appreciate that. I love long-term. Any questions for Ms. Schmidt? Exchange.
I just have a comment. that maybe it might seem counterintuitive to have someone who isn't teaching French to go with you, but I would suggest that maybe we have someone who teaches Spanish or something to go and then try to piggyback that and maybe have the Spanish classes go to Spain someday or something like that, or some of the other languages.
I believe that's a proposal that she'll be getting in a few more weeks for a Spanish exchange. So my preference would be to have someone that speaks French, and I'm talking with Mrs. Jensen, who's the other French teacher right now. She's got young children, so she's on the fence, but leaning towards it, so.
And how about
so we
Mr.
would see.
Priest?
He
does French and Spanish.
Yeah, that's true. He could work his way into either, but, I would certainly be open for people. We have a lot of teachers who actually do speak at least un peu
And a
de
school
français.
committee member.
And there's a wonderful school committee member who's...
comes to worse. Former French teachers
Right,
would,
right,
worst comes to worst.
right. And I know that you have a little bit more time on your hands now
Yeah.
when you're not here at school committee.
Or even not French. I mean, I think that
Right, no.
it's a very important message to recognize that not only people who teach French need to learn French, or not only people who teach Spanish need to learn Spanish.
Right.
Everything is interconnected, and having a
Right.
science teacher promote the benefits of learning a foreign language is really
Right,
powerful.
well, the team in France, they're recruiting a new English teacher because the English teacher has decided that was the last, but my other two teachers there have been, in the most recent exchanges, have been a science teacher and a history teacher.
Exactly.
So there's possibilities.
Sam's volunteering from the back.
I actually did go as a chaperone for a 2-week exchange to Barcelonette, which is a little bit further north, or southeast of Lyon, and it was a phenomenal opportunity for our students. So I endorse bringing other disciplines, and I spent many months learning enough French so that I could get back, and I went back 3 times after that. So.
Yeah.
I can fit you in a beret.
Yeah, I was going to say, in Sandwich as well, I had a math teacher, a history teacher, and at one point an English teacher who had done the exchange with me as a student.
Oh,
When she came back, she did it, so.
Great. But yeah,
Kelly, yeah.
for the students who went last year, are some of them still in school who could present what this is about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And some of them may even consider doing it a second time. Some of my kids who were sophomores
Okay.
last year would be eligible certainly to go again. When we talked about it, as we were coming home, they were like, but it won't be the same. And I said, no, it won't, which is the whole wonderful thing about it. And I have to say, currently, I have at least 2 students who are traveling. One is spending, I believe, the whole semester in Greece and planning to get together somewhere with her French correspondent. And the other, I keep seeing Facebook pictures posted in London. So I keep wondering, is she going to go across the channel, or I don't know how long the trip is. That's my next question when I comment on one of her photos. Is you going to get to France? Is your correspondent coming to London? And see what's going on. But I think I've got a few who have that traveling bug now. So.
Any other questions? Walter?
Where's the $2,000 coming from? Is that coming from the high school budget?
No, the students would pay their tuition. And actually, to say last year, I always kind of count a little, hopefully large. When I made the initial reservations, the airfare was $1,100, and when we paid for the tickets, it was $739, I believe, and so I was able to refund $400 to each of the participants. So.
Any last questions? Do we have a motion to approve the exchange trip to France? Carrie, you want to go
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that. Any last discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for taking on. I know it's a lot of work, but it's certainly worth it.
It's worth it.
Thank you.
We'll be talking.
Bon voyage.
Merci.
Next is our acting on the attendance policy JE that we had a first read on at our last meeting. Policy people want to speak to it, or is there anything we need to?
No, it's just that there was a first read on the.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that
so
what I
now-
said?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now we're ready to take a vote on this.
We're asking that you approve it.
Yeah.
The subcommittee's asking that you approve the proposed policy on attendance JE.
Do we have a motion to approve attendance policy JE?
I'll make, well,
I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second them.
Any discussion? John?
Yes, so we're removing must accompany a student upon return to school and making it is required. So is that opening it up for it to be like emailed or something, or what's the gist of that?
Yeah.
I think we were just trying to make all of the individual exemptions align in the terms of the language.
Okay.
So that it was, if you look at how the others are written, they were just trying to put them in alignment, not to change the meaning of that statement.
Okay, because like number 4 says legal, a note, shall accompany a student's return to school. To me, that aligns more similarly to what we struck rather than what you have is. I just always like to, is required is, I like the clear, finite definition of it must accompany a student upon return to school versus is required. Is required is, do I bring it then? Can I bring it, I'm back a couple of days, it's required. You haven't really told me when it's required. Whereas if you say it's must accompany the student upon return to school, then it's clearly defined. I just don't like vagaries with verbiage like this. Maybe you say is required to accompany the student on return to school. I just think defining a timeline that it has to be versus just is required.
So I hear that, John, and I agree that that's important, but I think that's what the handbooks are for. So when we were talking in the policy subcommittee, we've talked a lot about having these be broader so then the handbooks can be more specific as to those timelines and things that need to be done. So saying that it's required, it then allows the handbook to say it needs to be brought in within whatever days.
Well, what's the date? I mean, so it's deliberately ambiguous is what you're saying?
Yes, that policies are, yeah.
Okay, because I'm just a big
broad.
fan of like not changing something just for the sake of changing it. And to me, saying it's required, so does that mean somebody can go to school without
Yes.
that healthcare professional's note?
That they could bring it in later.
Okay.
I mean, unless there was something in the handbook that said
Well,
otherwise.
Nancy, if you're okay with that, they're able to go to school without having the healthcare note, then I don't
They
have
are.
an issue with it.
We don't keep them out because they don't have the note that day.
Okay.
But what we do say is that they need that note to excuse the absence. So, because remember, if they have an accumulated number of absences that are not excused, that triggers another action.
Okay, so that's...
You see what I mean?
So the genesis of this may have been that there was some kids that had issues and they were sent home because they didn't have the note that day, and you guys are realizing that this is something that if this was in place like this, it would have prevented something like that happening?
I don't think in practice we've ever sent kids home after they've been out and they don't have the note that day. The issue is you will need that note to have that considered excused.
Okay.
But if you come back after being out for a week with the flu, we're not going to send you home on Monday because you don't have the letter. But we are saying you do need it to excuse those 5 days.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe more information, like in the elementary schools, absences might not result in lack of, accreditation or whatever. So it's as Leah and Andrea were saying, it's the handbooks define things more for each grade level. That's why it's not ambiguous, but just,
Because each school, because
Yeah,
the
because
rules for an elementary would be different than at the high school.
They,
is what you're saying.
they
Okay.
could be, and
Right.
keeping in mind that at the high school, the stakes are equally as high, because if you go to appeal because you lose credit because of attendance and you don't have that documented, you're out of luck.
But all those schools need to fit into this policy.
yeah.
The practice can be more specific, the policy needs to be broad.
Any other, well, Bill?
Yeah, under 4, one paragraph down, in addition, principals at their discretion may excuse cases of necessary absence for other causes. I understand that. Not exceeding 7-day sessions or 14 half-day sessions in any period of 6 months. It kind of threw me off. What do you mean by sessions? And what do you mean by 6 months? Shouldn't it be a school year?
I want to say that refers back to the law, that if you're out 14 half-days or 7 days, it triggers attendance that can get you into some legal trouble, actually. But I'm not sure, and that's in a 6-month period.
Okay. So that's a legal law issue? Okay, thank you. At least that's clarification.
I guess that we didn't have that discussion, so I don't know that answer. Andrea or Melissa or Terry, do you
That's
remember?
my understanding.
Yeah.
It's 7 days or
Right.
14
7 days.
half-days.
And that's when you get the notices.
You can start getting letters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, I didn't even notice that. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Any last comments? All in favor of approving, get it right, attendance policy JE?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, policy folks, for your attention to that. Next, we have our ELL presentation. Did you want to introduce this at all, or are we
I
just
would
gonna
love
have-
to.
Okay, great.
I'd love to introduce Christine Nicholson, who is the department chair for the ELE department, and Mary Beth Knox, who is one of our ELE teachers. And I'm very excited that they're here tonight to talk about our growing ELE program here in Falmouth. So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to come and talk about our hardworking students and dedicated teachers. I think we have a fabulous department, so.
Bless you. Oh yeah, you can kind of see it. Hopefully it'll brighten up.
Okay, thank you. So this is a copy of our mission statement. Our ELE department, English Language Education Department in the district, it aligns with the state model of the SEI, which is Sheltered English Immersion. And there are two components to that. There's the sheltered content instruction that's given by the content teacher in the classroom, as well as English language development, that is instruction given by ESL licensed teacher. And the model is different in different schools. Some is pull-out and some is just the content class itself. So the goal of our program is to promote academic achievement for our ELs. We build upon our students' strengths, their cultural and linguistic backgrounds that they bring with them, and we develop their academic English language skills through this model. So this is what our staff looks like. 63% of our administrators have the SEI administrator's endorsement, and if an administrator evaluates an SEI teacher, they need to have this endorsement. And then 60% of our core academic teachers have the SEI endorsement. And core academic teachers are the ELA, math, science, social studies, and which one am I forgetting? ELA, math, social studies. Maybe that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't include the specialist, like the art teacher and things like that. They don't need to have that. And then our ELD teachers, which we provide systematic, explicit, sustained language development aligned with the state guidelines. Right now we have 5.9 full-time equivalent teachers across the district. This is our population of ELs over the last couple of years. Currently, to break it down by school, East Falmouth has 9 students, T-Ticket 14, North Falmouth has 5.
We're going to want
Slow
these.
down.
Can you give them to us again?
East Falmouth, 9.
Thanks.
T-Ticket 14. North Falmouth, 5. Mullen Hall, 30. Morse Pond, 16. Lawrence, 17. And Falmouth High School, 18. So far this year, we've enrolled 36 new Ls in the district.
Oh, I missed Lawrence.
And there are 20 of our Ls are at the beginning stages of English Language Proficiency Level 1. And we also monitor students after they exit our program for 4 years. They're called FELs, F-E-L, and we monitor them. So every term we check in with their content teachers to see how they're progressing and to see if they need additional support. If they find that they do, they can come back in for instruction. So now it's a new thing that's now for 4 years that we do it. Currently we have, I think, 38 FELs in the district. These are our population amongst showing the proficiency levels of our students. Again, level 1 is a newcomer, all the way up to level 5. And there are various factors that come into play when they exit our program, depending upon their academic achievement, the access scores, the MCAS scores. So it's kind of an individualized. We have guidelines from the state that we follow, but it's really, we look at each student individually. And to give you a kind of an overview, it could take 7 to 9 years to become proficient in English for your academic English skills. And so you can see that level 3s and 4s, like students don't progress through that in 1 year. It can take a number of years to get through that stage 3. Stage 1, they're learning a lot of social language. By stage 3, they're starting to learn more academic and understand more academic language in the classroom. But they still need support if they're level 4s and 5 as the academic and linguistic demands become more intense and complex. And we also think about, when you think about English proficiency, we think about the 4 domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So when they take the access test, which they're taking now, the state assessment of their English proficiency, they're assessed in all 4 different domains. And a student can have a proficiency of 5 in speaking, but in writing can have a proficiency of 3. So we take into account each of the 4 different domains and tailor our instruction to meet their needs.
And between our English learners and our former English learners, there are 25 languages in our district and 25 countries of origin. These are our 3 most popular languages, as you can see on the slide: Portuguese, Patois, and Spanish. And the 3 top countries of origin are the United States, Brazil, and Jamaica.
So some people ask how could an L be from the United States? Well, a lot of our students are born in the United States, and they have a different home language than English. So. And this is just to highlight some of the unique needs of our Ls at school and at home. Obviously the school culture and expectations could be very different from what a student is accustomed to in their the school that they move from. The development of academic English language is a barrier. Academic gaps, the grades don't always align. And some social needs. So that social emotional needs of our Ls is a big component of how we support them. And for home, same thing for parents. It could be a totally new school culture, new way of doing things, expectations. Language barriers, with a lot of parents need translations and interpreters. A lot of times they don't understand everything that's sent home, so that could be really hard. And getting parents connected in the community. Sometimes they move here and they don't know anyone else, and it's really hard sometimes for them to get connected to the community. So we've done a number of things to help these things along, and Mary Beth will talk about it.
Yeah, so some ways that we connect the families with the community, we host family dinners. Two of these, for example, we've hosted some family dinners at Falmouth Museum on the Greens Cultural Center. And Carolyn Tarr, she's the events and office manager there. She's been most gracious and helpful by accommodating our students and their families. Also, the Morse Pond School Principal Tim McLaughlin supports us by allowing us to host dinners in the Morse Pond cafeteria. The Morse Pond custodians, of course, are all very helpful during these dinners, and they're great. Our family dinners have been successful for the following reasons for our families. Families, first of all, bring their favorite foods to share with everyone, which is really kind of neat. Families are able to meet and connect with other English learner families. The department as well is able to share information about our English language development classes with parents and guardians and let them know what their children are studying. Families also learn at these dinners, for example, what neat things that Falmouth has to offer, because a lot of these families come and they don't realize the resources that are within this town of Falmouth and also the surrounding towns on the Cape. Also, English learners are able to discuss their experiences with the Falmouth Public Schools and answer questions from parents, guardians, and students. For example, last spring we had 2 seniors come and speak to the families about the experiences and successes that they've had in the Falmouth Public Schools. The dinners are very well attended by the English language development teachers as well as administrators and principals. So it's really nice. Another event that the department offers is our summer camp, and it's called Camp Can Do, because there's a lot of things that these English learner students can do. The camp is held at Mullen Hall Elementary School, and Principal Nancy Ashworth has warmly welcomes our campers and our ELD staff. The camp helps English learners practice the 4 domains that Christine had mentioned before, the listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills, so that when that first day comes in September, they're already starting to get maybe a little bit of a routine or what to expect. So it does give them a little boost of confidence because the camp is held just before we start school. So the camp usually focuses on a central theme for the week. For example, this past summer, we used the Department of Education curriculum on animals and their habitats. Additionally, the camp includes hands-on activities and local field trips around Falmouth. And I have to say, because I helped with the camp, and it was great. I mean, Falmouth is such a welcoming community. I really can't stress that enough. All the people that I went to when I planned these little local field trips, everyone in the community was incredibly nice to me. I can't stress that enough. For example, we went to the Falmouth Public Library, and Donna Skinner helped us. Because we were researching animals, and so she brought the kids in. We had a whole tour. The kids went on the elevator. They actually had a blast. They went into the when you return the books, and they all looked in the slot, and then it fell, and they were all screaming. It was really kind of neat. Then we went over to 8 Cousins, and we were given a great tour by Sarah Hines, and so she showed in front of the 8 Cousins bookstore. Of course, it's that wonderful art, the beautiful chair with the alphabet, and she just showed all the kids that, and then she took the children downstairs to see where she gets all of her books. So that was great. They
popped all the little bubbles, and they thought that was kind of fun. But they got to see the store, which was really nice. Also, the Carousel of Light, which is held on the Morse Mullen Hall School grounds. They gave all of our students complimentary rides on the carousel, so the kids had a blast. Also, the Falmouth Garden Club gave a very informative talk the year before about the colonial style flower garden. The women were really kind to the students. And also the Falmouth Historical Society allowed us to conduct a scavenger hunt outside. So it was quite nice, and I just wanted to stress it's great to run the camp when everyone is just so very helpful to us. So, and it's nice for the children, so. Yeah, and it's been very successful at doing it at the end of the summer. So students go home and speak their home language with their families a lot, and then coming back to school sometimes it could, there's been some slide in the language, so it's been a great opportunity to get them back into the routine a little bit. So that was very helpful. It's great. We hope that grows. We would love to see it grow up to the upper grades. And for the department, our focus for professional development, last year the state came out with the new next generation unit design for ELD lessons and units based on the UBD design. So Donna Hearn and I went through the training, and we spent last year really training our staff on all the tools and resources. It's really dense and has a lot to it. They have a great collaboration tool and things like that. So we spent a lot of time working on that to help us develop focused language goals. And then this year we started writing our units, ELD units. So we have 3 done that we have implemented. So we wrote one at the end of last year. We implemented in September. So we write them and then implement them and use them. The way we're using those is we're aligning K through 12. And we're focused on the language functions that the state has identified that go across content levels. All the tasks that students are asked to do across content levels, we're teaching the language of how to do those skills, such as the acronym is recount, explain, argue, and discuss. And then it has micro functions of cause and effect, stating a claim with evidence, justifying, and all those. So we're building our units on that, and the thought is then the teachers can slide in their grade level content that aligns with the frameworks and differentiate for the language proficiencies from there. So it has been a huge success because it's given our department a focus, and as we get together we can support each other and share resources of how we're implementing and addressing these language functions. So that's been a real big success. Last year we spent a focus on developing academic conversations with our students. The thought was we would help to promote these skills in our ELD classes and then transfer them to the classroom, which we did see a lot of success with that. We had classroom teachers coming up to us and saying, wow, your student really participated today when we were talking about compare and contrast, and they had this neat little booklet, and they were with sentence starters. So it really supported them in the classroom. It was really a great way to do that. So that's been our focus. And then we also this year, the department's focus is on fortifying their writing skills, and we created a color coding writing system for our students. We aligned it with the medal. So that has really been a nice connection for our students. And we started at the elementary level. So our students, we use the same language throughout. So when our students progress through the grades with us, we're using the same language for the same skills. And so they're really having that built-in support. Well, that's it. Does anyone have any questions that we can
Any questions? Any questions? Didn't see that coming.
So, Christine, I'm wondering, and maybe Mary Beth, you also can talk a little bit about this, but how has the program changed since having a coordinator? What have you seen the benefits to now having your position?
Well, there were a lot of initiatives coming from the state, and there was a lot of, we needed some structure to address and support these. So it gave us a focus for our PD. We actually have PD that now addresses us. As an evaluator, I can evaluate our teachers, what they're doing, because a lot of times our evaluators would come to evaluate us and they say, why were you doing that? Like, you know, why were you spending time doing that? So that has been a real big focus. And I think it's a good way for me to support our ELD teachers and in improving their skills and strategies and instruction. So I think it's really just kind of given us a good framework to build off of, and allows, no one really had the time to collect data, no one had the time to organize events or do anything like that, so it's kind of a nice, I think that's...
It's very focused.
Yeah, and did you start, Mary Beth, when Christine was before,
It's right.
or right when she...
Mary Beth was a long-term sub previous year, and then you came on full-time.
Right, when I came out
so
full-time, Christine was the department head.
Okay, so you got to see that.
I did, yeah.
That's great.
Is the professional development ongoing?
Yes, actually, yes, we've had the work that we started last year with the next generation resources and tools, we are still doing that this year. And we're still focused on developing the academic conversation skills with building those into the units that we're using. All the tools and resources that we learned about last year, we're now sliding into our units. So it is ongoing, yes.
Okay. And can you explain to me, when somebody starts, we're looking at two programs, an SEI and an ELD, and some kind of concurrent enrollment. Obviously, the SEI is the beginning. So just explain the concurrency.
The program has...
The
overall...
The
program, the state calls it the SEI program, which is our language support, language development. There are two components. The student is developing their English academic skills in the classroom, and those are taught by teachers who have the SEI endorsement.
Okay.
And they were taking that course and did all that work. And then, so they're supporting, you can think of it this way, that when they're in the classroom, the teacher is using the content to teach language. And when we're working with them in our ELD program, it's much more targeted to their language development. So we're using content to teach language development. So our work with them is much more focused and individualized. And then, does that answer your question? So there's two, we're working together.
Two components.
So students will see us for a period or two a day, but the rest of the day they're in the classroom. And while they're in their classrooms, they're still developing their English language skills through the content.
Okay, thank you.
Andrea, did you have?
Yes, I did. Thanks. I actually have two questions. I wanted to go back to the English proficiency levels and the distribution that you showed. Is that what you would see as is that a normal distribution? Is there a way to compare that across the state? Do our students do better in comparison, or is that not even worth making that?
I don't know if percentages are typical. I don't. Typically, a student will come in for level 1 and 2 and progress through those stages. So the levels 3s and 4s, typically your higher population of students are in those because it takes so long to move through the skills you need at those to become proficient at those levels.
I guess I'm trying to figure out how to interpret this information, and that sort of led into another question is, do you tend to have students who move in and out of the district?
We're very fluid, yes. Yes.
So, because that would change this distribution and have nothing to do with the work that you guys have done, because you may have someone have completely come in and a bunch of newcomers will really skew this.
Yes. Very much so, yes. And tomorrow we could get 3 newcomer students coming in throughout the district. So it does change. Our population is growing over the years. So that number tends to stay steady throughout the year. But you'll have a day, like this week, 2 students left from the high school, but we're having other students come in a different school. So it is always
It provides
changing.
a lot of challenges, I'm sure, for the program.
Yes, yeah.
So the piece that I was looking at was because I was looking at that as well and trying to figure out what to do with that graph, but the very last piece on the slide was 36% have attained English proficiency, and the target was only 14%. So to me, that's actually a more useful number to see how kids are progressing, because they're moving through that. If our target was only,
The next slide.
right?
Actually, it's
Yeah.
not on, yeah.
Oh, sorry, we have
that's
it.
okay. No,
Oh.
no,
But I think that's a really
it is
important
there, yeah.
piece, because that's telling how successful the program is at moving kids through those levels. Regardless of how many we have in each one, or how many there are altogether, what we care is whether or not they're moving.
Well, the 80% made progress towards acquiring proficiency, that's a very good score. I mean, that's an amazing percentage. So Falmouth you guys should feel really proud about that piece.
And that changes each year. That target will change each year from the state. The state gives you a target to reach, and you reach for those.
And so I'm just trying to help my understanding on this. So the state gives you that target for your population of students. It's not a target statewide.
Right, each district based on the students you have and their proficiency levels and so forth.
And
yes.
then when it says attained English proficiency, is that level 5 or is that 3 through 5 or?
Attained proficiency means they probably exited the program. So we do still have some level 5 students in our, because they still need the support. So yes, and that's where that individualized exiting students from the program. It's not just a cut and dry. Once you reach a certain score, you're not just cut off, because some students still might need more development in their writing or things like that, and that's where you.
That's the FELs.
No, when they're FELs, we no longer see them as ELD teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. FELs when they're out of our program. Ls are when they're in. Yes. But we have level 5s in our program. That helps them.
Do you have a question?
I do. So do these kids take the access test from the state?
Yes, we're doing that now. This is our test target window now. Every student in the state of Massachusetts that is an L takes this access test. And Falmouth has been doing it online the last couple of years. So yes, they're taking, every L in our district is taking that now.
Is there any, if they don't pass it, is there a problem?
It's not really a pass, it's assessing their English proficiency level, so it's not really a pass or a failed mark. It's giving you information as to how they're progressing in each domain. Yes. Yep.
Okay. And do some colleges, though, have a test that kids have to pass to be accepted into college if they're English language?
I think it's TEFL.
Yeah,
is it
TOEFL or something like that.
Yeah.
So do you work with them at all on that test, or? No?
I don't think Dawn has worked with students on that test at the high school right now, but I'm not sure about that, if that's, because a lot of times by that time they're exited out of our program, and then no longer an L when they graduate, so.
Thank you.
It'd almost be nice to keep them so that they could get help on that. Yeah.
So here's a big question. So are students able to get the English language development instruction that they need right now? And I'm going by looking at your numbers with 14 students at T-Ticket, 9 students at East Falmouth. And you have 0.5 half-time teacher shared between the two of those?
Yes, we have one full-time teacher between those two schools. And it's not so much the number of L's we have, it's their proficiency level that drives the amount of instruction time that they need.
Yeah.
So a level 1 student from our state is required to have 2 to 3 periods of ELD instruction within a grade span and just at their proficiency level. So the state has clear guidelines as to, you can group grades that are back-to-back, like second and third graders together, but you cannot instruct a level 1 student with a level 4 or 3 student. So it's targeted towards their proficiency level and their grade. So that's when it becomes tricky, because if you have newcomers come in, if we have a newcomer come in at East this week in grade 3, then we would have to provide 2 periods of ELD instruction targeted for that student.
And how are we doing right now? I know that in looking at our strategic plan too, that is part of our strategic plan of providing services.
In most buildings, we're doing really well. The two buildings you identified, we are not hitting our mark. because then it becomes complicated with schedules and specials and lunches, and if you have a teacher that's between two buildings, you have a very short window to provide instruction for all those L's at that. So.
Just kind of piggybacking on that, so are these kids pulled out of the classroom and having one-on-one with you?
Not necessarily always one-on-one.
They might have another friend.
We'll have a small group.
Yeah.
If we have other students in that building that we can group with them in that class, depending upon the grade level and proficiency level, yes.
Because Mullen Hall has 30, so are
Right.
they?
But their group sizes are bigger, but they might already have a grade 3 level 1 class that new student could just join versus you having to create a new class periods for them.
Right.
So it's not as much the number of students that you have, it's really their proficiency in grade levels that drive how you're going to group and instruct students.
Is it safe for us to assume that, thinking of the Mullen students, that there are 30 students, that they do not exceed the average class size in the mainstream class? For example, we try to keep the numbers low in the regular classrooms of elementary, Morse Pond. We're not exceeding like 20 students in their classes? In
a grade level, in a particular class? Because that's from K through 4.
Right.
There are 30 students.
So I assume that some of those 30 students have their classes together.
Probably, yes.
Yes. So when those students are together in one of their classes, they're not exceeding 20, like it's not too much, is what I'm saying.
I'm not involved in the class sizes of their content area, so I'm not sure what the class sizes are.
They would be included in the number of that class. They wouldn't be add-ons.
No, I don't mean in their regular classroom.
Yeah, the ESL class.
There's probably not a group bigger than 6, right?
I think 7 or 8 is the highest
Okay,
at Mullen.
thank you.
Right.
Their pull-out classes are
Their
very
pull-out
small.
classes, yeah.
Right.
Because if it was kindergarten, you could potentially hit that.
Right.
If there's a giant group. I see what you're
Right.
saying. I gotcha.
Thank you.
I have one more. Can I ask mine?
Yeah.
Okay. So as coordinator, of course you're working with the, let me get all the words right, sorry. We're really interested in all this because it's all new. So you're working with the English language development teachers, obviously.
Correct.
But are you also working with all of those SEI endorsed teachers?
So I work with a lot of department heads.
Okay.
The goal is to fortify my ELD teachers, because there are a lot of SEI teachers across the district, and they're more in touch and contact with the SEI teachers. So the goal is to have that collaboration happen at that level. So I'll work with the department heads and go from the top down.
And then
So-
the ELD teachers would then be the ones that might be offering input to SEI,
They
the
collaborate.
SEI teachers that they're working with,
Yes.
that they're sharing students.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you.
I just wanted to ask again about this distribution of students at the schools, because it was my understanding that, I believe it was a pilot of having Mullen Hall be an ELL hub at the elementary school
Magnet
level.
program.
Yeah, we talked about doing that, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, to try to do that because, you can pool your resources, and the
Yeah.
thought was to create a school that we could then connect parents more to and have parents network more and more of it like a cultural center type thing. But then that you also balancing that with being in your community and being part of your community. And part of our newcomer program is really connecting our students with the school community and their friends and stuff. So, a lot of parents, I think we had two parents that decided to make that switch that spring to do that, but that was about it. And that was, so I think a lot of people like the idea of staying in their community buildings and being connected with children in their neighborhoods and things like that.
Any last questions?
Go, Leah. Okay. So I'm looking at the percentage of SEI endorsed administrators and the SEI endorsed teachers. Are we in compliance with this? So if 63% of our administrators RSEI endorses that covering every administrator who evaluates a teacher who has an L?
I don't know that. I don't know if I'm not privy as to who really is endorsed and not.
Okay.
That's,
I'm sure we can find out.
I don't know.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you can tell by the ton of questions, this is something that we definitely needed some education about. So
Well, I
thank
appreciate
you
your
for
questions.
taking the time
Thank you.
to share it with us, and now we are so much more better educated. I really appreciate it.
But just let me know if you have any questions, further questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we have our superintendent's mid-cycle review presentation.
Okay, in your packet, I did give you a mid-cycle progress note on my goals, and you've had an opportunity to read them, and where you see any places that say, C 710, 1018, 11.8 agendas, I have them all for you. I've pulled them out of the binder, but I will need to put them back. But I thought for evidence for my mid-cycle, I would make them available to you. Just a couple of things I'd like to point out with our student learning goal. One of my goals, because I think it's really important, is to make sure that we're consistent with our work over time. So this is my third year with my administrative staff, and making sure that we are just not pulling initiatives from here and here because they happen to be the sort of the flavor of the month type thing, but making sure that we reevaluate our goals for kids, we make sure that our professional development lines up to meet those goals. We try to make sure that, a big thing for me is making sure that the central office departments work together so that teaching and learning, access, equity, opportunity, and community partnerships, they all are connected together, and that the Office of Curriculum and Instruction doesn't operate in a vacuum. It's very tied to meeting the overall needs of all kids, which is addressed by student services, making sure that they all work together, and being able to articulate that to principals to go back to their staffs and send that same message, and to actually show people how they're connected has been really an important part of our work. Another piece that was really important to me was to meet with the adjustment counselors to talk about what they were seeing in terms of student learning and the opioid crisis that the community is managing right now. So I needed to really be able to quantify the scope of that issue. So I met with the adjustment counselors and then did a survey and asked them to give me some real data on what they're seeing with kids, and that really informed my presentation to MASS and MASC. So that was a great thing to go through. My professional practice goal, and I know I'm kind of going through these quickly, but please stop me and ask me any questions, really is around my work at Boston College, and really thinking about how Boston College has informed my leadership and how it's helped me put a framework around what I do in the district and how I encourage the administrative staff to work with their staffs to then work with all kids. And I think what I've taken away from BC has been really, really important. And I'll just call out an example or two. We look at data all the time. We look at MCAS scores. We look at attendance. You just approved a policy around attendance for kids, and going deeper than that to understand a student's story. And so we've done a lot with the ACE study, which has been around for a while, but really taking a look at not just the data points, but the story behind the data point, which then informs how you intervene with kids. And kids need different interventions. Our work with McLean Hospital and Gosnold, the work with McLean Hospital, I think has been outstanding and really helpful for students and also for teachers. My district improvement goals, budget planning, we're right in the thick of that right now, and how that budget impacts what we do with kids and what we're able to provide for students and for student learning. That's been really important. And continuing that budget development process through the admin council and talking to principals on a couple of different levels, individual building needs, but then also looking at the big picture in terms of the district and how that budget has to meet the district, and then look at your cost centers in terms of your buildings. My district improvement goal number 3, I've really taken a look at how I support individual principals and what that looks like. And so I've asked, Sharon and I both worked on kind of a tracking form, because I wanted to get more data around how often I meet with individual principals, what the issues are that they bring to me, so that I can then assess for myself and reflect for myself on how impactful or effective my leadership of my principals and my administrative team is. And that's been really, really helpful. Let's see. Ongoing conversations about individual staffing needs. We continue to talk about that, and we constantly, especially right now, and consistently are assessing building needs. And how do we make individual building requests fit into that big picture? And that is the overall budget. And then my 4th district improvement goal, that's been really fun, and that was the development of our Wheelhouse Newsletter that Sonia and I are collaborating on. And it's really just about pushing out information that is happening in the district and what we're doing and what our initiatives look like in terms of the classroom. So I'm certainly open to any questions, any feedback. I've had a couple of observations by school committee members, and so I think that's been going really well.
Great. Questions? Walter?
I think you made very good progress on your goals, so I think this is a good update, and you're right on track.
Thank you, Walter.
It's so funny because I was thinking, I of course I agree with you completely, Walter, but sometimes you forget to state the obvious. So I'm really glad you actually said it out loud, because I just was reading through and thinking about all these things that you've been doing and how we're moving forward, but it needs to be actually said out loud that you're really moving forward really well, and I think we're in great shape for the year. Any other comments about the goals? Yeah.
Well, I just want to make a comment that as the subcommittee, the evaluation subcommittee, we were able to get a little presentation about all that Nancy has learned about in her BU in the Lynch School program, and just really how, or BC. Sorry, BC,
Yeah.
Lynch.
Just a different. Yeah, Lynch School of Education is BC.
Yes. I'm sorry about that. But how it really has impacted her role as a leader, and really supported everything that she's been doing. And so it was very eye-opening and a great experience to learn about all of that. So,
And there is a whole nother binder of all of the Boston College pieces for anyone to look at as evidence, just to show exactly how it has informed my leadership, and also help me to create a framework so that my leadership, my goals, and my values can be pushed out through that framework.
yeah.
And it's been very helpful.
And I think the final note on that is just what an amazing role model Nancy is in this aspect, as she is also a learner in this process, and that everything she was learning, she was then bringing into her practice. And I feel like in having a leader who does that in our school district, we are very, very fortunate. So I just
Thank you.
wanted to
Thank you very much.
that. So thank you.
Any other comments on mid-cycle progress? Great. Thank you very much for putting that together. Next, we have our strategic plan presentation.
So in your packets, you have the strategic plan, and I just want to walk you through this just a little bit. If you look at the front page that I gave you, that's the original strategic plan that we're working off of, and you can see how it is organized, and we changed it around a little bit as you went and read the strategic plan. But again, the goal for me was to make sure that I explicitly connected the objectives and the initiatives with the work that is going on in the district and at central office, and then with the responsibility. Like, what are we responsible for? So that first page is kind of the quick guide to the shifts that we've made in the strategic plan. If you look at page 2, there's a little bit of a cheat sheet to just kind of talk about the shifts in our FPS strategic plan. So if you remember, our first pillar was teaching and learning. We call it now our academic growth and achievement. We have supporting learning environments, which then stresses the access, equity, and opportunity for all kids. And our family collaboration and engagement, which speaks to the community partners. That's that pink page that you have right there. Talks about our responsive action. And then we did not only a narrative, but we did a visual of each part of the strategic plan. So I just want to call out a couple of things. If you look at that first page, our responsive action, we created our student success plan, which is included in your packet. Everybody have everything? Did you get an opportunity to read this over? Or am I, okay, because I don't want to spend too much time, but this is an important document because what we do really needs to be guided by the strategic plan, which went through my central office, but also was vetted through the admin council team, and it's had several iterations. So our action was to create a framework for student success that really highlights our long-term initiatives and our critical community partners to inform the changes to our practice, really targeting our practice to meet the needs of all kids in our district, and to make sure that we intentionally aligned our work and our initiatives and our professional development to support our initiatives. So do you have any questions about what you read or how the strategic plan is now formatted?
Can I just make a comment?
Please,
on that?
please.
So, I think, when we saw this a little bit at the evaluation subcommittee meeting, I thought that it was a really great idea to use the tiers of instruction. Yes. And I think I just want to clarify this piece about that Tier 1 is like universal for all students. And then when you get to the Tier 2, so this is how the strategic plan is organized, that Tier 2 is for a part of that population who might need a little bit extra support for one reason or another. And then the Tier 3 is for a smaller part of that population that was part of Tier 1, was part of Tier 2, and now is getting some extra in Tier 3. And I think sometimes people don't realize that Tier 3 group is also getting the Tier 2 and the Tier 1, and that those Tier 2 are also getting all that Tier 1, everyone always gets that. So I think just in clarifying that piece, it helps me understand that, when you look at what the Tier 3 students and families are getting, they're also getting everything else. And
it's a really good point because we do it all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes we think everybody understands it the way we do.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And Tier 3 students receiving Tier 3 should be your smallest population, right? Tier 1 is everybody.
Yes.
Tier 2 is also everyone, right?
Yes.
Smaller group.
No,
Terry?
all.
So is Clipper time now here to stay for good? There's going to be no more to talk about? Because I read it in here, that's one of the bullets for the Tier 1 stuff. So we own it now for good?
We own it, and the strategic plan is updated yearly, so I can commit to it for a year. I think that it's working, and I think will stay, but I wouldn't commit Mary Gans. Yeah.
Just a comment, I think Clipper time should stay, I think it's great.
I agree. I agree.
I think
it's
everyone
been
agrees.
very
Student at the table nodded, so we should roll with that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone that doesn't like Clipper time, from students through instructors. And
I
everyone
just
in this
need to
table.
also say that it's the principal's decision.
Of course it is. And we do not
but
want
I
to speak
think-
for Ms. Gans.
I think everyone supports Mary Gans and her decision with Clipper time.
And what a huge thing to take on and get it right. John, sorry.
A suggestion that the format here kind of lends itself to like a daily kind of reaffirmation, that you could actually make this into like a pocket card. Just as a daily, like, okay, here's what our strategic goals are.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Leah.
Nancy, how specific do you want us to be on these questions? Can I ask a specific question?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering on
Which
I
page?
guess they're not numbered. It's the
Yes, they are.
supportive learning environment. Are yours
Yes,
numbered?
supportive
Okay.
learning environment. Yep.
It's the second page, and it's about the executive coaching for IST leadership. I just have a clarification question, because I was under the impression that the CPOs were running IST meetings, but
No,
they're not.
no.
They're running IEP meetings?
Let me be very
Okay.
clear about that. That's a really good question,
Okay.
and it's a really good point of clarification. The instructional support team is not a special education process. It could result in a referral for testing for special ed. But the instructional support team can be any student experiencing any issue that may interfere with their learning. Instructional support teams are to be chaired by principals. The SEBA's, the special education department, may or may not be involved at that point at all.
So it could be something completely unrelated, like attendance.
It could be attendance,
Okay.
and attendance is a big one. It could be anxiety. It could be issues that a student is reporting to a teacher, that they get the team together. It's how do we improve our instructional strategies for that particular kid in that classroom. Doesn't have to be throughout the entire day, but maybe one particular teacher may be struggling.
Okay, and because it's broader, it's not specific to special education, it is chaired by the principal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that would lead to potentially some tier 2
Yes.
instruction?
Yes.
And then maybe to a tier 3
Yes.
instruction if the student needed something even more
Even more
conducive.
targeted.
Yes.
Yes, it could, special education referral for testing or initial evaluation on a student could come out of the IST. But there are strategies that need to be tested first.
Okay, thanks.
Bill, did you have a question? I have a question. So I'm on the same page, the supportive learning environment. So under Tier 1, for all students, we have the calmer choice, the mindfulness
Yes.
calmer choice. So is the plan to be able to extend that? Because I know it's not for all kids right now. It's certain grades and certain schools, but is the hope that we'll be able to either age with the kids or move backward to cover everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and to also, so that we can have our own trainers in our own buildings. And we have some now, but to make that a larger group so that we, we're working with the Common Choice people right now, but at some point there'll be a gradual release and we'll be doing it on our own. But yes, to
And
extend
to
it.
be able to continue to
Yes.
do that without additional expense, because
Right.
getting
It is
off the ground is
Yes,
expensive.
it is very
But the
expensive.
plan is now that we're invested, it will expand.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll do it internally.
Awesome.
I have two questions. One really isn't a question, it's more of a statement about the calmer choice. I can see personally firsthand a certain young person who maybe didn't handle emotions all that well, and I see that young person going through the steps as that person is taught at school, and also sharing those calmer choices with another young person. So I can honestly, I mean, I always knew that it was a great idea, but to really see it in action and to see them using those true calmer choices as opposed to just flying off the handle, or it's amazing. And could you please explain to me what the Deveraux Student Strength Assessment Screener is?
Give me a second to think about, this is new. I wish Charlie were here.
Sorry.
I actually think I'll wait.
Wait
I
for
don't
Charlie.
want to do it a disservice.
That's okay.
I want to say it's anxiety and depression, Melissa, but
Okay.
let me check on that.
And there's a short and a long.
Yes.
And I feel like that came out of the McLean thing. I feel like when we got a lot of McLean information, now that you say anxiety, that sort of triggered a memory of, it was maybe associated with, I feel like. We'll find out.
I believe it is,
will.
but I don't want to
will.
misspeak either.
you have a question for us, Sam? Please do.
Just clarification on the instructional support team. Would that include family issues that might be influencing the child's ability to learn?
Absolutely,
Thanks.
absolutely.
I know it says instructional support, but I wasn't sure whether it included dysfunctional family situations and that sort of thing.
It's anything that would sort of impair the child's availability to learn, right? So it could be a variety of issues. It's a great question. Yeah.
I have one other thing. When I was reading the family collaboration and engagement piece, and I was looking at the Tier 1, and I was looking at just about kind of school communication pieces, and I was actually thinking of like Power School, for example. And I was wondering if there are workshops for parents on how to use that?
I know that some of the principals, when they've introduced that at Lawrence, they have shown how to access and use the program. Other than logging in, we do provide like a handout with screenshots and things like that to talk them through once they're in those few screens that they can see, you know, with how they can click on certain things to get information. In terms of a full workshop, I mean, they do get an introduction, because at Lawrence is when they would get Power School, so that's kind of where it starts.
Yeah, I think at Meet the Teacher,
Yeah,
they
there
kind
was,
of go through
they
it.
like click through and you get the handout, and you really don't need much
And
more
then
than
your
that
children
handout.
are probably your best
Yeah,
teachers.
teach me how to use this.
Yeah,
Just ask them.
I guess just one thing I was thinking about, and I'm also thinking about our families who English is not their first language, just if there were some workshops around communication with school about just what to expect, and maybe that would be with, for example, during the summer program when you have so many students whose families have another language and have come from a different cultural experience, of having a little workshop for parents there about school communication. I'm just thinking about, for me, yeah, my daughter knows how to do all this stuff, and I'm not really up on all of it, but I speak English, I'm reading this information, but I think about how much language and how that might be helpful. And since you have an active group of students and families during the summer, that might be a good time.
And I wish we had asked them that question, because I think, again, I think in the past they have, I don't know if it's been a workshop, but it's certainly been conferences with parents on how to access, because it came up with cell phones and translations and picking students up and that type of thing. So I think they do, but I can definitely check back with Christine.
You were right on the cover.
It is
It is the anxiety.
That's what I thought.
nice. Oh, we can check that off the
It's a
list.
quick screener.
Right.
And then if the student gets a certain score that sort of calls out anxiety or depression, you should go
Sure.
to the longer form, and then you could make some recommendations. Thank you, Patrick, for
And
that.
when does that happen? Does everyone get that screener?
I'm not even sure they've started them yet.
Okay.
I
would guess no.
I would have to check with Charlie.
I'd be
Then it probably
surprised.
shouldn't be in
So
the
you
tier
should be in
one.
tier one then.
Because
If it's in tier
not-
one?
Yeah, it's a tier one thing.
But I'm not, I think everyone gets it, but I'm not sure they've started it yet.
Okay.
Oh, so everyone will be screened?
I believe so.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's great. That's true. And I hope it comes with a list of referrals, because there's going to be so many kids that end up needing services. Do you have any other questions on our strategic plan?
So I guess, now that I think about that, I wonder what else is included in the Deveraux screening other than anxiety? Are there, is ADD in there? Are there other target?
Depression or...
Right, like, is it just
I want
anxiety?
to say it's anxiety and depression. That's my thought. But again, I'd rather have Charlie speak to it.
Okay.
I should find out. I would like to know what it
We
is.
could get a sample of it too, if that's
Right.
possible.
I
to
would
see
love
what
to
it is.
see that.
Yeah.
For those of us that might want to take it
So
ourselves.
Yes.
Yes. I can't even imagine the work that went into this. And I like the new format. So
I like the
thank you
cheat
for that.
sheet.
Yeah, I like the cheat sheet too. So my last question is whether or not it is or will be accessible on the website, people to peruse. Not that, what if people can't fall asleep at night and they want to read through all of our...
It will be on the website. It will be. Actually, the cheat sheet, who mentioned the cheat sheet?
I did.
Melissa? I have to give credit to my evaluation subcommittee, because when they saw it and they read this, it may have been Leah who said, it might be nice to have a cheat sheet on the face of it. So,
Thank you.
again, it's
Whatever.
very helpful.
Very helpful.
It'd be helpful to get it disseminated like through school councils and
Yeah.
things like that, so it can keep, the people who really understand it can get to be a bigger and bigger pool.
Right. At least. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Okay, next we have reviewing and discussing our school calendar for 18 and 19. It's two-sided. And we're just looking at it. I think it's not on the agenda to approve until our next meeting. So I think everything is pretty much the same as it was last year, unless... Yeah.
Sharon simply takes the calendar from the current year and rolls it over, because she doesn't make any sort of changes. The changes have to come from the school committee back to us.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I noticed that Ramadan is on the 15th to the 14th of June, and Fiddle Fadr is actually the 14th to the 15th of June, actually.
Oh, you've got
Yeah,
date
so the dates are
corrections?
different.
These
Yeah,
all
the
need
dates-
to be updated.
Say that again.
So these are the old, these are the...
Are these last year's dates?
Correct, yeah. So
Okay.
I believe they are. I believe, no, actually, I know some of the other dates are correct.
Yeah, some of them are
So
right.
I'm thinking
so maybe
it
double
probably,
check all of them.
so, but Fiddle Fadr is June 14th to June 15th.
Okay.
And Ramadan is actually May 15th to June 14th.
Got it.
Oh,
So
so that
Ramadan-
one's just missing a 1.
That's
Correct,
That
yeah,
might
that's
be a
just missing a
typo.
1 before the 5 and
Okay.
the 4.
Any other dates that you see?
The other one is Fid al-Fitr, which is June 14th to June 15th. And what I was also going to suggest too was to flip-flop the location of Good Friday and Passover, because the Passover is referring to the 19th to the 27th. So it would make more sense for
Yeah.
Good Friday to be above that, and also alphabetically, it's ahead of it in the alphabet too.
Yeah.
I'm fine
So
with that.
switch those, and then the other thing that I was looking at on the 28th, I think last year Easter and Orthodox Easter fell on the same day. But this year they don't. So this year, see on the 28th it says Easter and Orthodox Easter. I think that's just a
think
holdover
you-
from last year.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to update the dates,
So
Sharon.
all of those should be double.
Yeah, double
Right.
check,
Yeah.
triple check.
Triple checked.
The last thing we want is to have someone's date completely incorrect. And then Cranberry Day was missing, which I'm pretty sure is the 9th. But we'll just double check all of those. And I had one other comment. I would love to see for all of our pre-K early release days, those are all, I think, they're all staff development. Is that right? Or professional development of some kind?
Pre-K early, yes.
So I would love it to say staff development or whatever we usually say.
Well,
I think
some
we
of them are
say,
conferences though, right?
One is a
There's
conference.
parent-teacher conference.
Yep.
but I think it's important that we say
Yeah.
why we're.
What it
if
is.
we're gonna have kids release at noon, we need to tell parents why, because people ask.
I think
why
that-
are you getting out again? We need to.
Even if it's just there as, development day, conference day, just
Professional day,
Give a dog
something.
a bone.
Yeah,
And I
something.
just mean I don't mean it as the instructors. I mean the parents that are constantly, why are they not here today? So if we just give them, even if
We just need to say why.
we just need to, yes, clarity, transparency.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that too? Has there been any discussion about having full days instead of breaking up with the half days? for
There
development?
absolutely have been ongoing conversations about that, but in order, I think, to change the calendar significantly like that, which I would be in favor of, we'd need to have a calendar committee. And it would have to have I would want the FEA involved in that.
So if we, We should have a
Can you just
calendar
explain
committee.
what you're...
So instead of having the half days, all these half days, then instead having, what would it be? 1, 2, 3 full days? Is that right?
We'd have, yeah.
3 full days of PD, which would enable staff to do more development during that time, and then potentially, not be such a drain on parents 6 days.
And I think one of the issues that when we started talking about this with the calendar committee, I don't know, 2 years ago, is that when professional development, and I should probably let somebody else speak to this, but when professional development affects more than one school who are getting out at different times, they're starting a development and then people are trickling in late, and then people are leaving early because they've already been there, and the times of because we have such a staggered start, trying to offer development on those days is messy.
And
Is that accurate?
it is, and if you're a district-wide provider like Cindy or Steve Edwards or even Zach, because he's K through 6, it really throws off the time.
The ebb and flow of the day as well.
It really does. It interferes.
Well, and the other point from the parent standpoint too was that if, and the numbers we were talking about then was going from 6 half days to 3 full days, then that would just blow up people as far as taking care of their kids. Versus they might be able to get through having somebody pick them up early versus, okay, what am I going to do for these 3 full days with the children?
And then the other, to that point, where are we going to make those days up? Which is the bigger
Right, because it extends the school
elephant
year.
in the room.
Yeah.
You're extending the school year, be it before Labor Day, which a lot of people are totally against of, or at the end of the school year, which people are against, so
which is why I think it's so important.
There's a lot to think about, not just the inconvenience of half days for parents. I get it, but there's a lot more to that story.
I agree. It's very complicated, and there are several layers. And to form a committee, you need parent representation.
Absolutely.
You need the FEA. Other districts do it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make that type of significant change, I'd want to do it really well.
Sure. But I think Kelly's adjective of messy is
it's very messy. But I think so we had talked about this a long time ago, and we've also talked about how nice it would be to be operating not just on a yearly basis, but to take the calendar out 2 years and look at what it would look like if we were planning really far ahead, and to have that type of foresight and not always be so reactive. So, we do have a calendar task force of school committee people. What I think we should try to do is schedule a meeting and then bring in those additional people that you just met to start that conversation, and we could look at what it would look, because we know what it's going to look like for next year, but then we could be looking at the next year after that, and to be able to be more proactive, I think would be, we have to start now.
So we have 4 people who are on that.
We do. Megan, John, Melissa, and you are all on calendar task force, and then, like Nancy said, we need those community people and admin people to sit on that. So I challenge you to find a time. John?
Well, to give these folks the tools that they need to move forward too as well. I'd like to motion that we approve the calendar put forth in front of us with the adjustment of flip-flopping Good Friday and Passover, of correcting the dates of Ramadan, correcting the dates of Eid al-Fitr, and then also adding the date for Cranberry Day, and then any other necessary changes.
May I ask that we, that because this was just a review and discuss, can we take this back, John, and make the corrections and bring it back to you before approving it? I just want to make sure that we make all these changes.
It is an awful lot of
And I'd like you to look at it, take a look one more time. Would that be all right?
That's okay, yeah.
Are you all right with that?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
So let's do, is everyone else okay with that?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
it's within our purview to approve it. No, it's not on the on our agenda to approve it tonight. If everyone really just wanted to do it, we are certainly, it's within our purview to do so. But since there are a lot of changes, maybe we should wait.
Can I make a recommendation? So thinking about, I think it would be great to have an actual calendar task force. So I know that that's what we're calling it here in our list. But to actually have some people who would be willing to work on this, to invest some time, so through the schools, so union representatives, administration, a teacher, think about who would be that makeup, and then getting representatives so we could really do this right and start the process together. So I guess what we could do is we could have the first calendar task force meeting with just the school committee and kind of brainstorming what that looks like. Would that be helpful?
That's fine. Sure.
And then from there, get the task force together and move
And I
forward.
can then find out who may volunteer and maybe target some union people to see if they'll participate.
Yeah.
And I'll assign it to the central office person also, and I think I
Okay.
should be part of that too.
Oh, I was just
Okay.
going to say, whenever
Zach
you
and I
do,
will
I
do
hope
that.
Nancy could make it, because
Yeah.
in order to have the group that needs to be, you
So
need
maybe,
room.
That's a great
maybe
idea.
share some dates that Nancy's available, and we
Okay,
can
so
go.
we'll do that. We'll
that's a
look
good
for a
idea.
date that, to get the ball rolling. Ooh, that makes me so happy to think about finally getting 2 years going. That's
Okay.
great. All right, and we'll bring it back for approving at our next meeting. Routine business. The minutes from December 5th. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from our December 5th meeting?
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 5th, 2017, school committee meeting.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on the mask project that you actually voted in opposition to it, not abstain.
Yes.
Okay, so make that clear.
Thank you. I have a petty change. Sharon, you're going to kill me. I'm sorry, but can you make me Ms. instead of Mrs.? I would really appreciate it.
Where are
Because
you
Mrs.
Mrs.?
is my mom.
Where are you missing? Oh, Mrs. Welch.
Any other changes, additions, subtractions, anything? All in favor of the minutes
Aye.
with those corrections from December 5th?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
One abstention. Thank you so much. Next we have report from the superintendent.
Okay. You have my briefing. I would just like you to, I just want to highlight a couple of things on my briefing and just have a little bit of a conversation around the budget development and where we are with the budget. And we had a budget subcommittee meeting this afternoon, so unfortunately, those of you who attended the budget subcommittee meeting will hear the same thing again. We do have a recommended number from the town of $47,823,129 for our FY19 budget. I have a couple of priorities, a couple of things I just want to point out. Firstly, I want to point out that in planning a budget, Patrick and I, since we started together, we always try to work out a couple of years. We look out 3 years, 3 to 5 years actually. And the reason we do that is any changes that I want to make in programming or in personnel, I want to make sure that they're not one-time fixes for something, whether it's a programmatic issue, but we try to make sure that whatever we build, and this is why we spend a lot of time with the admin council and the central office staff around really recognizing and looking and articulating our priorities, because once I build it, I need to make sure that I can sustain it over time. If it's that important for us to build it, then it's something that we're going to need over the next 5 years. So making sure we can sustain that. And we've made some incremental changes. And we've made these incremental changes while protecting small class sizes in Falmouth. If you look at our elementary numbers and even our middle school numbers and our high school numbers, our numbers are competitively small in this region. And that's something that we're proud of. And it also has that piece to sort of be a bubble in the budget. It's expensive. But we have made some incremental changes in personnel. We've been able to add school adjustment counselors. We've added a nurse over time. We added a department chair for music and art. And we've been able to maintain our special education building-based administrators in every building. So we've made some really good changes, and I think it's important to recognize that our budget process over the past 3 years has really reflected a strong planning and collaboration with the town, whether it's Jennifer Petit in the finance office, or Mr. Suso, our town manager, and certainly the finance committee in this town has been very, very supportive of our efforts, and I think that's really important. It also calls out a real understanding of the potential impact of any changes in our grants that are coming forward. And we don't have hard numbers on our grants, so we build this budget based on a reflection of the past couple of years and a prediction of the next 3 years. And we don't know the governor's budget yet. We're not sure exactly what that's going to look like. We don't know about the circuit breaker percentage, and we don't know the exact numbers of our grants. But we move forward, we build a budget, and we stay pretty conservative in our estimates. So this year, my priorities to add in terms of personnel, one is the health, physical education, and wellness administrator. And those of you who have been on the committee for the past couple of years know that this is my third request. And so I'm hoping that I can make that happen. And I'm also looking for a 1.0 FTE school adjustment counselor to support my elementary special education program housed right now at the East Falmouth School. Looking forward, as I put in my briefing, I'm looking at a family resource center. I'm not prepared to give you exactly what that plan is because it's an idea. And we talked about it at the budget subcommittee, and some of the FinCom members had some great ideas and some great input to help me develop what that will look like. But at this point, it's not going to impact the FY19 budget. Patrick, do you want to add anything, or did I cover it? Are we good?
All the points.
Okay.
We don't see any drama in this year's budget.
No drama.
Please, no drama.
I know, right. No drama is good. The one thing I wanted to point out to getting this update on the budget process right on the heels of the update with the strategic plan and your goals, it's very easy to see how all these pieces fit, because the two positions that you're looking for are tied directly into pieces of the strategic plan and directly into things that we can already see you working on in all of the things that all of your pieces of your goals for this year. I just think it's unusual that we would have them all right together in the same meeting, but it does make it very clear how all of this is just one giant puzzle, and then all the pieces fit perfectly together.
And if you can understand the connectedness between all of the pieces, all of the departments, HR, and including the business office, then I have met my objective, because that's the part that's really important to me, that we don't operate in the different silos, that everybody has a responsibility and everybody has an impact on student learning. So if I could
Can we do
continue?
questions? Are there any budgetary questions? Because it's such a big piece before you move on to other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
You were just saying that the position for the health, physical education, wellness administrator, that you've been trying that for several years now. So what's been the biggest barrier? What's been preventing that?
That's a really good question. It depends. It depends on if we have the grants and I can fund everything and sustain everything I have now and still be able to incorporate these positions into the operating budget, I do it. If I can't, then you go back and reprioritize. So if for example, it comes down to, well, Nancy, you can probably eke out one position and not another, I go back to my admin council and we talk about it again. Where's the priority? And I let them have some input. But what has happened the past 2 years, you have a great plan, you want these things, and then you find you can't have everything. So you reprioritize. And that piece has fallen off the first 2 budget cycles.
Thank you.
I'm hopeful that it won't, but I don't know. I'm really hopeful. I think it's needed in this district. I think it's been needed for a long time. And I think, again, as Kelly says, it speaks to trying to meet all of these other needs. They all connect, from my perspective, under that position.
Thanks. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
Nope,
are the things
any
you
other
have?
budget?
Oh, sorry, any other budget?
Because I was going to go on
Okay,
just
great.
I put something in the budget about the Fields Task Force Planning Committee. We have a meeting this Thursday. We're planning for our community forums that are coming forward. In your packet, I believe I put the timeline, but as we meet as a committee, we add additional dates. So that's where this Thursday's date came in from our last meeting. We wanted an additional date. School counseling connection, it's in Charlie's, it's in his briefing, but I just want to call out those dates so that you kind of know what's going on in Falmouth High School. Let me just make sure I have.
The events, the evening events?
Yes.
One's I have them in mind because
Did I
I
give
really
you a
want them
copy?
to happen. Yeah, so tomorrow night
Here they are.
at 6:30, the teen depression presentation at Falmouth High School.
Yes. So January 10th is the teen depression workshop, and I think that's going to be really important. If you look on Charlie's briefing,
It's also in the,
It's also in
it's in the
that.
it's in there
connections
twice,
too.
yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure I called it out, because in case you missed it in the reading, I think these are really important, and I think these workshops also speak to issues that Falmouth High School is struggling with. January 18th, at the FHS auditorium, the eating disorders program, all of me will be there. And then January 31st at 6 p.m. Morse Pond Auditorium, bullying and the responsible use of social media. So those are, again, programs for parents, for the community that are being sponsored by Falmouth High School, and particularly Alan Kazarian in the guidance department. And I just think I should call him out for that. I think these are very important programs for parents.
So, great.
Bye. Thank you
so
very
much
much
for
for joining us.
Thank you.
Andrea?
I was just going to note that January 18th date had jumped out at me because that's also the proposed community forum. I didn't know where that location was going to be, but I was wondering if there was any way to, I don't know, put those together that people don't have to choose sort of one or the other.
Right now, ours is at Morse Pond. We can look at that. Patrick, can you just make a note to consider that with for our meeting on Thursday?
Yeah, that's it. We never want people to have to choose.
I want to, if I could we go back to the number 2, the Fields Task Force Planning Committee? Couple questions. One, is there still room for community membership? Because I know that I can think of a few folks that had reached out to me personally who were very interested in this process, and I don't see their names on here.
Did they apply online? I mean, we went through a process of bringing people in. We could not take everybody.
Okay.
So we went through a very careful process to come up with these 2 groups of people. If they
Okay.
would like to come and voice an opinion, but they may not be voting.
Okay. And what is the Community Voices questionnaire on the end? Like, how will this be shared? Help me.
That went out. That went out in the very beginning.
I don't remember getting this.
No, I never got that.
And I definitely, because
This was on our website, and we had an alert on our website.
that's unfortunate. I sort of wish that there was more hype around it, just because there's been so much discussion, opinions about the field and the status.
Yeah, we had talked about this because I got it, but you didn't, and we were talking about whether or not it got the reach that was necessary. And the one piece that I was comforted by was that there were so many people that applied. So I think, although it's unfortunate that it did miss people, a lot of people did get it because there were way more people that wanted to have a spot.
Yeah, sure.
So I understand. I know. I understand
But
your
this
point.
is different.
This is about
anyone's opinion. I'm wondering if we could blast
this is
this
not
out
the-
again and make it that everyone gets it in an email.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read this as the one that where you apply.
Yeah, because the alerts are great. Like,
Yeah.
I love that pop-up.
We do.
But the way
you
I
have to go to
found
the
that I
website.
happened to be going to the page that day, if I wasn't going to the school website, I wouldn't have gotten the pop-up. So it's don't eliminate the pop-up, I think that's great, but maybe find other ways to target that. And along that line, I was also thinking that because this needs to go to town meeting, I mean, this would be a great thing to send out to town meeting members ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because that discussion is going to happen on town meeting floor, or it can happen ahead of time, and I think it's
Right.
much more constructive to know those questions and issues before we get there.
Yeah, that list is
For those of us
readily
that were
accessible.
at the last town meeting, that started to get a little heated, and I think more than one of us thought to ourselves, there's a forum that you're welcome to join and share. So maybe if we, great idea having this community voice sent out prior to town meeting, we could hear their voices
Long before town
long
meeting.
before
Yeah.
town
But
meeting
we're
floor,
also
because
doing
it's
3
not
community forums.
right.
So I think we are doing our due diligence in putting it out to the community and asking for feedback. I do. I mean, we can,
So
we
this
can
is still
certainly
open?
act, that's my
this-
question.
Yeah.
I have to check to see if this is still open. We can certainly put it out again and blast it out again. I can,
And how are we putting it in the enterprise? Is this like the alerts for the community forum? I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to see
the
it.
community forums will be in the enterprise.
It would be ideal if
Like
during that advertisement
previous-
for the community forums that we can also still have this open. Because regardless of anything that has already happened, there will be people who hear about the community forum and just can't make it. So it would be nice for them to have an option, click on the
Well, it could
tiny
be,
URL and they can go to
there could
this.
be a link in the enterprise to
this. Not that we're suggesting how someone might publicize something. No, but I think we all are on the same page. We just want to make sure we get as much input as we possibly can.
Can I just ask a clarifying question about that? So when we get the all call, I feel like I also get an email. So is,
No, if you answer the phone, you don't get the email, right?
No, I get the email.
You get
You get both?
so is there a way?
If we have
They
your,
have no idea.
if we have your email address in our Power School, it should, and the person sending the message clicks both,
So is
correct?
there a way to do
You have to
both
do it
for
by
this? To get a call and an email? So people know, they could hear the call and say, oh, and then they have the survey on their email.
I will do my best.
I just don't want to only focus on our families though, because it's a huge community thing.
Where are the community forums, and are they always 5 to 7?
The one this
The
week's at
18th I see
4.
is 5 to 7, but what about the other ones, and where are they located?
There's one this Thursday.
They will, I
Yeah.
believe they're all at the Morse Pond Auditorium.
And the one this Thursday doesn't appear to be on the task force.
This Thursday isn't a community forum.
That's just a task force
Thursday is
meeting.
a task force meeting. That was, the last time we met, we added additional
Got
times
it.
to meet.
And how about the forum where, on the 18th, where is that? At Morse Pond?
They're all at Morse Pond.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just to clarify, the meetings moving forward, we're not clear on the times yet? Or are they always 5 to 7 at Morse Pond?
The forums.
The forums.
It depends. We have not set the time.
Thank you. Just
Yeah,
to
it'd be nice if
clarify.
they're
Thanks
not
very
always,
much.
because people
Yep.
have crazy schedules.
Don't I know?
I have
Sorry.
a note on
John.
on the upcoming parent programs, to go back to that for a second.
Yes.
Counseling.
Yes.
Very important topics that we have: the teen depression, eating disorders, and the bullying and social media. Along those same lines, where people may not be able to attend those, in the future, for future postings, can we include some kind of like an email address or something that somebody could reach out to get a PowerPoint presentation back? It might have more of a penetration into folks if they're not able to attend.
Sure, and I would suggest that anyone could reach out to Alan Kazarian
Okay.
And I'm sure he'd be willing to forward anything that, or even post it on our website, John, but I'm sure if somebody sent an email and said, could you forward to me your PowerPoint, he would do that.
Because I think just to have it within it, so somebody, parents just kind of doing a cursory look at some of these things, rather than I'm saying, oh, I'm not able to go.
Right.
If it's right in the bottom, if you can't, I don't want to create a whole bunch of work, but I mean, by the same token, if you get like 15, 20 people saying, can I have that PowerPoint? That'd be pretty tremendous. Yeah.
Occasionally we do. We have people, especially around, probably more around the program of studies nights than the parent programs, but.
Cool.
Okay,
All right, so.
back on track. We're at Career
Go
Day.
back. So Career Day was fabulous, and I just want to do a shout out for Alan Kazarian and for Tracy Crago with VIPS. It was an incredible success once again. And lastly, for my briefing, although it isn't written on here because we didn't have issues prior to me submitting the briefing, I just need to really speak to two pieces regarding the burst pipe over at the North Falmouth School. So we had an issue with a pipe around a sprinkler system, and we activated all of the custodians, certainly under the supervision of Kevin Pimentel and Dawn Drew, and the group that came in there to clean up North Falmouth. Chrissy Tavares and her husband. Chrissy works at the North Falmouth School. She came right over on Sunday. And they worked for hours cleaning up that school, and I really, really appreciate it. They all pulled together to pull that off. The other piece that was very, very helpful was to be able to get on the telephone on Sunday to our town manager's office and to have a conversation with Julian Suso about what was happening, what my plans were to repair and fix, and at first we were able to go back to school on Monday. The fire department, Chief Small, I was on the phone with him. So the connections that the school department has out in the community with other town offices, you really realize how important those are when you have something really big that happens like this. So I just need to put that out there, that working with the town manager's office, working with the fire department, our own internal crew makes for a really well-oiled machine. And it was all about getting kids back into the North Falmouth School and making sure that school was safe. So that was a really good process. It worked really well. We thought we were ready to go back to school on Monday. We were raring to go. And then we had another issue when we went back in first thing on Monday morning. But again, we worked with the town manager's office. We worked with the fire department, who just kind of stayed on call for us the whole time because they had to come back in and inspect the sprinkler system so that we could have kids back in the building. It worked really, really well. It couldn't have happened without the support of the town departments, and it certainly could not have happened without the custodial staff in this district. And I just really need to applaud them. They all showed up. Anyone who was called showed up, worked, and I was very, very appreciative. They did a great job.
Can you also, related to that, speak to any pending, are we going to have any budget implications from the damage, or did we lose any equipment that we have to replace, or?
We're still assessing that. I cannot tell you what the numbers would be. We did a lot of our own work, thank goodness, but there will be an overtime bill for the custodial staff. We did have to replace some ceiling pieces, so there will be a bill for that. Certainly for Simplex that came in and repaired the damage, there'll be a bill. I just don't have those numbers yet. They have not come in. However, there will also be an insurance claim because I believe we'll meet our deductible.
Nancy, I have a quick question. Will the students of North have to make up Monday?
Yes.
Do we have a plan? How are we going to do that?
North Falmouth had to make up a day.
Just a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Yes. So we will work on that, but yes.
So it will be at the end of the
Yes,
year?
end of the year.
Okay.
Inquiring parents are.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Man.
Well, I was about to say how understanding all the parents I ran into from North Falmouth were. Wait till they find that out.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much.
Not so much.
Well, it's certainly out of our control.
It is, absolutely.
I just have a comment on that too, is I actually work right around the corner, so I stop by and then follow up a couple hours later, and I just have to add the kudos in addition to Chrissy Tavares, Chrissy, you rock, is fantastic, and Mr. Munson, who was there, and all the other folks. But Nancy and Patrick there, literally, in bootstraps, picking up by the bootstraps, literally.
And Tim Adams, Principal Adams.
Tim Adams, yes.
Yep.
And Jimmy Munson, who is, it's his building.
Munson was great.
He was fabulous.
But the camaraderie, everybody attacking it, I went back a couple hours later, and it was, basically done. I mean, I know there was some other stuff that needed to be done, but they really attacked it, so any long-term, your efforts, Nancy and Patrick and that whole team, those efforts probably prevented some long-term damage to like the gym and whatnot, and it's sitting underwater for a while, because all that got out very quickly. So kudos.
Can I ask a question about that? How do we know? How do you know when that happens? What happens?
An
Does an alarm goes off?
Yes,
Okay.
the fire department responded, and
Okay.
Deputy Smith, who again was available to me Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at a phone call. He was a phone call away each time, but that's what happened. That triggered them to respond, and then they started calling us.
That's good.
Thank you. Any other questions for Nancy? Okay, great. So we have Sonia's report, but she's not with us. And Zach, is there anything you'd like to highlight?
Can I highlight one
sorry.
thing? I'm
Yep.
sorry, on Sonia's report.
Sure.
I just really need to speak to the concert. Sonia was at that concert. She called it out in her briefing. I was also there. I think I saw Leah there. It was phenomenal at the Lawrence School. It was such an incredible performance. And I thought, when you close your eyes, you can't believe that they're students performing. They were that good. So kudos to Andrew Fitek and to Eileen Cahill at Lawrence. What an incredible production that was.
Thank you. Zach, anything you want to highlight?
My briefing this week just has information about the Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed going through the process of updating their history and social science curriculum. It's a multi-year process, and they have some information that's out right now, none that's been approved by the State Board of Education, but the major focus is an increase on civics education for students throughout all grade levels.
Any questions for Zach? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have Charlie's update, but well, a lot of that includes the dates and times for the events that we already talked about, but he's not with us tonight. Do you have anything?
No, I
That
just
one's
wanted
okay?
to make sure I called out those
Great.
programs. So I put them in my briefing.
Cindy, anything you want to highlight from your report?
Yes, actually, I have 4 pictures celebrating under computer science and the Hour of Code. And the reason I chose these was so often when we talk about technology in the district, I often hear a lot of concern about screen time. So during this Hour of Code week, I was getting a lot of pictures and going around to the different schools. And the pictures that you see here, I just want to point out that you'll notice in the examples given, there are not a lot of kids sitting passively in front of a screen, because all screen time, and we'll probably speak to this a little bit later at another meeting, it's not all equal. And a lot of these students, you'll see there are a lot of robotics going on, kids working, critically thinking, working through problems using critical thinking skills. And I've got 3 of them are examples at elementary school, and the one with sensors is at the high school. And I just wanted to call that out because I think far too often that tends to happen. Technology, screen time, but there really is a difference. And this was an opportunity for me to showcase some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Cindy?
Just a comment, that's a really great point, because I think, looking at it, it really conveys exactly what you said.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that. And I loved the escape room thing.
I was just going to
Oh,
comment
sorry.
to that.
I stole everyone's thunder.
No, it's fine. I couldn't. It's so exciting that they are doing this, and it must be really exciting for the students as well. Is everyone going to get to do that in 7th and 8th, or is it?
It's kind of, she's slowly rolling it out. I've been discussing some trying to encourage her to do some PD around that, to invite other teachers into the library to experience that, because with librarians in schools, it is so much about building partnerships. and enhancing curriculum. You know, you may teach your own content, but so much that the power is the collaboration. So I was just in communication with her in the last couple of days about talking to her about something coming up in a couple weeks, that I would like her to do something at Lawrence for the teachers, to invite them in and experience this firsthand.
So cool. Love it.
I know that it would probably never be able to happen, but it would be really fun if all of the grades could do an escape, because it sort of pulls all aspects of learning in when you're in an escape room. I don't know if anyone's done one, but you're not just focused on traditional library learning or traditional math learning. You're really pulling all of the aspects of the whole child's learning experience in that. But
so this is relatively new within the last year, that this, in the conferences that I've gone to, Breakout Edu is the big go-to name for this. And they actually have all kinds of curriculum, games that teachers have created with literature, questions, and math, and all of that, but just using that escape room theme. And kids really, and kids are broken up into groups, and they really have to work through those challenges, content questions, as I look to my curriculum, to try and get through that. And it's very competitive with the groups. And so yes, I think that is coming. I have to invest in some locks. People may donate some locks if they'd like. I know some librarians that would like that. So yes, I think that you'll see that eventually.
because I can see it being an exciting learning tool for littles all the way up through high school, and possibly for team building for teachers and administrators.
Well, my elementary people are definitely interested in it, just haven't quite gotten to getting into it yet.
Sure.
Mashpee School Committee did it for their retreat, so
Oh.
it could be a team building exercise here as well.
Oh, man.
Chair Kelly.
No,
I think we need to
I'm really
step up our game.
claustrophobic. I'm not locking myself in anything.
They're a smaller group.
Any other questions for Cindy? Thank you so much. Patrick, anything you want to highlight?
No, just as we get into budget season over the next six weeks or so, 6 or 8 weeks, if anyone feels like they want to come in and sit and go through the budget book in more detail, or if you have sort of the friend who is sort of asking you 1,000 questions and doesn't believe your answers, just schedule a meeting with me. We'll walk it through.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
We'll
you.
get a new friend.
Any questions for Patrick? Andrea?
I also see that you and Nancy will be going around to the school council
we've
meetings.
started that.
We started.
That was so helpful. I think that getting that understood at that level and having ambassadors there that are able to communicate within the schools is fantastic. So I'm glad you're continuing that.
Thank you.
And I
We've
had
done
made an-
the high
oh,
school in Lawrence so far.
I had made a note that might be a really good opportunity for an observation for someone that is interested in observing and doing their observation of Nancy on something budget or community-based. Might be a good thing. Just bring that up. Okay. Any other questions for Patrick? All right, moving right along. That's it. Report from the chair. We've already heard committee updates on budget from Nancy and field from Nancy. Evaluation, Leah touched on that already, and we had the goals. So I think curriculum and policy both met. Is that right? Did you guys meet? Do you have any updates? Either committee?
Well, policy, we got
We
that
brought our
policy
right,
approved
sorry.
today. Yeah, and we're
Since that's
And
it.
still
we're
working on.
now looking to schedule the next meetings in relation to the mask project. So we're kind of going back and forth with that for dates and how
hopefully
that's going to
also
play out.
the discussion that we had about signs and naming of schools. I just don't want to lose that for policy.
We started on that.
Yay!
Right. And there was
it's not going to go away.
Right, there was a
We-
good discussion on that around protocol needing to be, did we already have that conversation
We had
here?
it, no.
No, it was right before Christmas.
About the protocol needing to be developed first before the policy can be
Right,
developed.
so we
And-
were looking for admin,
Yeah, to work on it.
administrative
Sonia's
input.
gonna bring that.
Just so it doesn't get lost.
I promise it won't get lost.
Any other committee member updates or
Yeah,
reports?
from the Cape Cod Cooperative, I've been appointed to the Finance Committee. Melissa Goldstein is actually the interim director, doing a great job over at Waypoint Academy. We've put a search out to seek a permanent director as well. So those are just a couple of notes I wanted to share.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Any other updates from anyone?
And just to reiterate that we're going to start our calendar task force and that Sharon will work on a date that's okay for Nancy.
For Nancy?
Yeah.
I had a couple other things. We did get, it was right before Christmas, but we did get this information from a resident about the Barnstable High School composting plan with a suggestion that we look into that. So if anyone is interested in looking into compost, we did receive that as a school committee.
A couple years ago, a senior did her senior project on that, establishment at Falmouth High School, so there's already some...
There's something in existence?
There's something in existence.
All right, so we'll have to see if we can
That
find that
wasn't
out.
somebody trying to give us a double meeting reference or anything, was it?
No, let's do this. Yeah. Yeah, it had a note. They were just telling us we are compostable. The other thing was that we did get a lovely holiday card from the staff and students at Mullen Hall. So I wanted to share that with you. And that is all I have. Oh, one more thing. I am going to send something around, or hope maybe with Sharon's help, to try and find out which of our next couple of meetings, probably not our next one, but maybe the one or two after that, that we could hold the workshop that we had talked about doing. We had said at our retreat that we wanted to get together for maybe an hour before one of our school committee meetings and finish the workshop stuff that we had started during our retreat in the summer. So look for that. And then if you can get back to me and let me know when you can make it so we can actually get it scheduled before the year is out.
Only if it's in escape room format.
Speaking of that, we tried to have a workshop to look at our meeting agenda. Timeline and all that, and it fizzled out because of whatever, so Sharon and I will put on another monkey. Is that what you call those things?
That sounds good. Any requests for agenda items or follow-up information?
Just the Charlie information on the Deveraux. What else is included in the short form
And
and the
then,
long form?
thank you, and I also have whether or not we're in compliance with SEI administrator
And
whatever.
teachers.
And teachers, okay? And then the holdover I have from last time is whether or not the MASC policy materials are accessibility compliant online. So that's a holdover because it was Sonia and we don't have her tonight. Right. I think we're set. Terry, do your thing.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to move into an executive session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. It's expected the school committee will not resume public session.
It's a roll call vote. Walter, will you start us off?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Zach, weren't you the chair of the composting committee?
Zach.